Hear back.
I have to tell you, this is going to be a process second to none. There's going to be opposition to everything.
Everything.
There's opposition to sales tax. There's opposition to toll roads.
Yep.
I think what we have to wait for is what they're going to come up with, what the revenue source will be as a result of the different taxes. And we don't know that yet. I think, well, the report, I think, gives some idea of the revenue. So this report was to deal with our reaction to how it affects us as a city. I think we need far more information on all those others before we make any decisions. But there are some things in the report that is quite interesting, and that is integrating growth, land use, and transportation. Yep. We've never seen that. Mm-hmm. That, to me, is what has been needed for years and what has caused the gridlock, the lack of land use and transportation plan.
I've been arguing it for a while. I've been arguing it for a while for the downtown. Yeah. That's my fundamental point.
Yeah. So that is it. So secondly, the one question that is I would like us to ask, and it bothers me, whatever revenue comes in, how is it going to be distributed? Mm-hmm. How is it going to be distributed? And how will it determine the projects that are going to move ahead? Mm-hmm. Right? And these are the things that we should raise in our saying we'd like the answers to this. Mm-hmm. Secondly, this is only for the Greater Toronto Area. Now, how will the province fund the needs of the rest of the province? Mm-hmm. I don't know. Think about it. Are they going to have infrastructure funding that they allocate to Ottawa, Windsor, London, and such?
Thunder Bay, Sudbury.
So there's another thing that they're going to have to answer as to how, because they're saying this is only going to apply to the GTHA. So I'm concerned about how they're going to distribute it within the Greater Toronto Area. I don't know how Hamilton got in there, but they're in. And secondly, how they're going to deal with the transit needs of the rest of the province. Because we could be at a great disadvantage. Raising the money here, I assume that all the money will remain here.
Just like pooling.
Yeah. Thank you. It's like pooling, which didn't work, never would work, and et cetera. So, Madam City Manager, how could you work those questions in to, because there's no point of raising those questions. In other words, it's questions we're asking, mm-hmm. not comments on the tools. I think that has to come down the road.
Right.
I think it's important. I'll tell you why. If we want to sell it to the people, that's what we're going to be asked to do. If Metrolinx doesn't come out with all those details, it's going to be very difficult to sell it to the people and to the businesses. They got to do their homework on this.
I agree.
You know, they've also allocated, and that's what bothers me. That's what bothers me is the one thing they've said, 75%, 25%, no details.
Yeah.
Right? That scares me. Why would they say that when they haven't given us how that is going to work out? You know, they picked a figure out of midair, I would assume. I don't know. Because they don't give why. I haven't had time to read the report. But if they don't come out with all the details for us to be able to take to the people, and because the people will accept it if we can sell it on the basis that they know exactly how it's going to happen. It's the only way we can sell it. Otherwise, we go out to the public and they start asking the questions and we don't have the answers, they're going to be negative. It's only natural. Like the businesses, about how it's going to affect the businesses. So, and they got enough negativity now with the Mayor of Toronto being opposed to any new revenues. Mr. Hudak has reduced his opposition to some degree by saying, well, we'll do all the efficiencies and then maybe we need revenue. My comment is if they close the entire province of Ontario, the provincial government completely, there would only then be enough money to do what has to be done. They'd have to close it down, not the efficiencies, to do it. So that's why I think we should raise every question we can now if they want us to do a sales job. Because you can't sell it if you don't have the details. First question, well, Madam Mayor, what are they going to do with this? Well, I don't know. Immediately. That's a negative approach. So if you could, you and Martin put together the questions that as many questions as we can.
I did think it was very amusing, Madam Mayor, that Councillor Vaughan spoke up and chastised Mayor Ford, said, if you don't speak up for Toronto, that will leave Mayor Hazel McCallion to speak for the GTHA. He was very concerned that you would be the spokesperson on behalf of the region rather than City of Toronto. I found that amusing. But
Councillor Unica.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to try and be brief, and believe me sincerely when I tell you I was really hoping not to speak, but given all the comments that have been made, the thought that comes to mind, and I'll ask for your forgiveness in advance, is when I hear all of this and all that the province has before them is this little anecdote. When you're the natural beauty in the room, why do you want to cover yourself with the most makeup? The beauty and the purity of our argument is by far outstanding compared. There's no peer. So why do we want to dress it up in this? It is what it is. Our planning argument, our transportation argument, what we're doing in following provincial policies, we are the poster child for it. Janice, you just said so. But we know that. We don't need anybody. It was a couple of weeks ago at Metrolinx held their roundtable in Cooksville, and I was happy to attend at the Cooksville Library. It was also sponsored by one of the local cultural groups. And I got to introduce the subject, and I spoke, and I go, I just want one person to listen to me, the Metrolinx person. And when I'm done, just say yes or no. And I speak, that we have always heard me speak to the issue about the density, the transportation, our secondary plans, official plans align, the Hydro 10 corridor, GO train station in Port Credit, all the way up to Brampton. All of the intensification, to give you an idea, notwithstanding that my ward is already 88,000, then you have to add Councillor Dale's, I'm adding 14,000 units on the books as we speak. The Rogers land, the Carrabba lands, the new project just come in on Elm. That's not Highway 5 and 10. When I'm done, it's Barrie, Ontario. That's just my ward. Those are the real, and I thank Councillor Crombie for the analysis about budgets and printing, and then you get a sort of a magnitude of what we're dealing with. By the way, I come back to it because it's the most important thing we've been told in all the years that I've been here. When the planning commissioner, as a one-off, one evening at planning, said, just to give you an idea of the growth, Toronto, biggest city in Canada, Montreal, second biggest city, by 2031, 2035, we will have absorbed Montreal. That's it. That's all you need to know. Don't know the percentages, don't know the numbers. That's the reality. So how do you want to deal with it? And all of this conversation, I'm starting to get fed up with it because we don't need brilliance anymore. It hasn't gotten us anywhere. We need courage and conviction. So the how and the what, that's got to be predetermined. We know that we need it. It's kind of embarrassing when we had the presentation on the LRT. And you look at all of the other places that have LRTs, Montpellier, Lyon, Nice, etc. You want the real kick in the head. A lot of it was built by Bombardier, a Canadian company. And we can't do it. It's embarrassing. So the time has come to say, it is what it is. The purity of the argument speaks for itself. One of my phrases that some of you heard me say is, politics and golf, the only sports in the world where you can get ahead and fall behind by just standing still. That's a Nandoism, by the way. And what's my point? Just standing still and doing our homework. Look at the mess that is in Toronto. That if they walked in with a $10 billion check today, and the Metrolinx gentleman agreed with me, they wouldn't know what to do. Was it Scarborough? Is it above ground? Is it, we don't know. We're not saying that in Mississauga. We're saying Highway 10. We're saying here's all the density that dovetail. Here are all the plans. Here's our downtown core. Why do you want to muck it up with anything other than what it is? The most important, I could go on a long time. The most important thing we've heard on the discussion, and I agree with the mayor entirely, is let's keep doing our homework. Let's keep engineering this thing. Let's keep going to our public meetings so that when the time comes, and it'll be, by the way, 60 days before the next election where they've got to give out goodies. It'll be a photo op. That's when it's going to happen. We've all been around long enough to know that, right? So at the photo op, Hazel and me and Brent and all the ready to go. Here's the approved plan. Oh, no, there's no people here, angry people with posters. Haven't had it yet. Having storms. Oh my goodness, no. We've dealt with all over the last 10 years, by the way. We didn't do it overnight. So we're ready to go. We're job ready, it's engineered, it's been through the EA, and we're going to get a premier elected or re-elected or what have you. And you want to compare us to all the other battles you've got to fight everywhere else? So I think we stay the course, Madam Mayor, just as you've described. Let's get this thing engineered, designed, get all of the community, continue to be on side, build it where it's appropriate, because that's where it is. Then the arguments will speak for themselves. And if not, and you've heard, if not, we're just going to freeze all development in the downtown core, which works for me as well, with good reason. Now, what OMB is going to say, well, you have no infrastructure, but bring the next 14,000 units in. I don't think so. So this is pretty simple. Let's stay the course, Madam Mayor. You're right. Let's do our engineering. Let's do our homework. And then just be at the front of the class when they hand out the little pins, and I think we're going to get the first one. That's it. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hi.
Madam City Manager.
Just a point of clarification, going back to some of Councillor Tovey's comments. If I can refer you to R3UU, which is part of the Metrolinx report. The original 25 tools that they identified, actually corporate income tax and personal income tax were both on the list. So if you'll remember, I sent you a big 200-page link, or a link to a humongous 200-page report, and then in my email I said don't print it. That was the consultant's rationale around the original 25. So for those of you, and I can send the link again, but for those of you who are interested, if you go in and look at the report, they would have analyzed the various tools on the sets of criteria. But just to Councillor Tovey's point, corporate income tax was on the long list. It did not make it to the short list. You're right.
Okay. All in favor of the 3 reports? Carried. And we'll move on then to committee reports. Planning and Development.